Hey YouTube, what's happening? Tom2008 coming back to you for another video. Now, last week I made a quick first impression preview thing about the PlayStation Now services. So this is kind of part 2 / update. So what am I trying to do with this video? So being a geek and being picked by Sony to be part of the beta testing, well, I had to do another video about it. I couldn't just do a first impression, which, you know, I watched it again after I released it, and I thought it lacked kind of more insight and more depth to the video. So I thought, you know what, let's make another one, and there it is. This came about as well with me reading an article on the Guardian website from the co-founder of Twitch TV. I think his name was Emmett Shear. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. And the title read, and let me find out if I can see. Yeah, there it is. Twitch boss calls the end of game consoles. So I thought, this is pretty horrible, nightmare-inducing kind of title for me, anyway. He goes on to say, the problem is the 7-year upgrade life cycle doesn't work in the face of the 2-year upgrade cycles. I can't read. For every other hardware platform. So I'm thinking smartphones and tablets, right? He then went on and said, it's so essentially built into how consoles get manufactured and made, and the full business model is run, that I'll be surprised to see another generation. Alarm bells ringing for me. No, please don't. And to finish that, you know, to round that up, he went on to say that the future of console will be more like a set-top box. You know, the kind of the little box thing you get on the TV. So it's designed for a multitude of uses, and it will have a much shorter life cycle. So if you're like me, an old school gamer and a bit of a geek, reading that kind of article combined with the launch of PlayStation Now kind of raises a lot of questions. What kind of questions? Well, first thing first, what is PS Now? Can it succeed? Will this be the new standard of gaming? And maybe the most important question of all is this the end of traditional consoles? Well, let's find out.
Chapter 1.
Best way to put it is, it's a cloud-based game streaming service that allows you to play PSP, PS Vita, PS1, PS2, PS3 and hopefully PS4 games. But here's the twist, it will let you play those games on any internet-connected devices, being a PS4, a PS Vita, a smartphone or a tablet, and even a Sony TV. And in theory, you won't need a PS4 anymore or a console, because all the hard work is handled by a server far away from your house. It's been available since January 2015 in the US and is yet to get an official release date for the UK, Europe and the rest of the world. Once installed on your PS4, the app lets you sign up. It's pretty much like Netflix, so you pay, I guess, a one-off fee and then access pretty much every single game you want. Now, on a technical note, Sony strongly recommends that you have a 5 megabytes per second internet connection minimum. I was playing on the first time around on Wi-Fi and did a test just before that, and I ran a 10 megabytes per second connection. That did not go well at all. If you go back to my first video, you'll see that it was laggy. I've wired myself in and it works just fine, and the test I did showed me that I was actually running on 20 megabytes per second. So don't take Sony's recommendation too lightly, and believe me, get yourself wired in and get a very good fast internet connection. As you can see in the background or behind me or whatever, this is actual gameplay I recorded being wired in. If everything goes well technically, then the launch of PS Now by Sony will be a major revamp of video gaming as we know it. So let's move on to
Chapter 2.
Okay, so why would Sony invest so much time and energy and money into cloud gaming? Well, if you look at the last 5 years of Sony's history, this will come hardly as a surprise. Just take a look at the 2012 launch of the PS Vita, for example. You can see an indication of Sony wanting to move the video gaming experience from the living room to, well, any other room in your house. The Vita was released in 2 different versions, Wi-Fi and 3G, 4G enabled. It also included remote play. The launch of PlayStation TV also gave the opportunity to gamers to move from the living room to their bedroom if they chose to. Eventually, when the next generation of home consoles will come out, let's call it PS5 to be on the safe side. Now you can bet on it that it will bring even more cross-platform possibilities. Well, let's say you start a game on your PS5 in the living room. You pause it, pick it up later on your smartphone, pause it again, and then pick it up on your iPad in the kitchen to finish that game. Who knows? Now let's move on to the other argument that would make cloud gaming amazing. If you look at recent numbers, the trend I think for the last year in PC sales of games, it was 90% digital and 10% on hard copies. You can find a link of what I'm on about in the description box right here underneath this video. It'll give you more numbers, and if you're more interested into that kind of stuff, God knows I'm not. So if you want to read a little bit more, go down there. And that's not sexual. Another hot point in favor of cloud gaming is, well, hard drive space really. Now, on the current generation PS4 and Xbox One, the default hard drive, I think the size you get is 500 gigs. Now, myself, I've upgraded my hard drive to 1 terabyte because I fill that up really quickly. Every single game you install on your PS4 is, between 45 and 50 gigs. So, add that up. If you've got 10 games, your hard drive is full. And I'm not even counting all the DLC and all the updates that are coming out. Your hard drive fills up real quick. But that's where cloud gaming is awesome, because you eliminate the possibility of running out of space. And there you go, freaking amazing. So let's sum up here for a second. Cloud gaming eliminates running out of space on your hard drive, having to go to a store and buy your CD, which means you don't have to queue, you don't even have to leave your house. And come to think about it, it's quite good for the environment because, well, you use less plastic and you don't even have to wait on Amazon to deliver to your house. Now let's go to
Chapter 3.
Okay, so now let's move on to the no thank you side of the argument. I can already see 3 different points that will make this a failure. 1. The internet speed. Not everyone has access to fast internet. 2. What price do you go for? Do you charge for a one-off fee, or do you go for a monthly fee like Netflix? And 3. There is no official announcement whether there will be PS4 games on PSNow. What? Now let's go back to point number 1. Now, according to research, the world's internet average speed is barely going to 5 megabytes per second. Obviously, some regions in the world can't access that. And a lot of people are saying that in the next 5 years, everyone should have caught up. So here's the thinking. As we know from previous generation, the life cycle of a console is 7 to 8 years? If the current generation manages the same, it gives another 5 years for Sony and pretty much every single internet service providers to play catch up and make sure that they really work on their product. So by the time the next generation comes, Sony and Microsoft could literally skip the digital age and go for cloud-based gaming. But again, it's a lot of ifs, so who knows. Now moving on to point number 2, how do you determine the price? We've seen that we could play cloud games on any single internet connected device, so it could be your TV, could be your smartphone, could be your tablet. Therefore you got rid of consoles. But how do you charge the customer? Keep in mind that manufacturers won't be losing any money over this. They barely break even on selling consoles because of all the cost of research and development on manufacturing costs. So obviously for them, I think in the past, the PS3 barely broke even. The PS4 I'm pretty sure is doing okay. So would they be charging, let's say the launching price of the PS4 was £349 I think here in the UK, and $399 in the US. This price is justified because, like I said, of all the hardware, the components, and the research and development, and all the advertising that goes around releasing a console. Would you pay $399 for a nap? Third point, there's still no official announcements from Sony in regards to releasing PS4 games to the cloud. That kind of sucks. And my final point is, it doesn't matter about your internet speed. It doesn't matter what kind of games will be available there. The hardest battle these companies will have to fight is, well, changing the public's perceptions, the gamers' way of doing things. I know, and I've seen a lot of people that are very much set in their ways of collecting hard copies of video game. Hell, I do it. Now let's move on to
The end.
Okay, so we've looked what will work for PSNow and what is still to be achieved by PSNow in order to be successful. But what do I make of it? What do I think is going to happen next? Well, here's what I think. I believe there's going to be one last wave of traditional video game consoles. Only recently Nintendo revealed the NX, and to date Sony has sold over 21 million PS4s worldwide. PlayStation is the core of Sony's business, and Microsoft has put so much time, money and effort into the Xbox that you can bet they will be in this business for the very long run. So yes, technology is catching up very fast. And okay, getting rid of consoles and their long life cycles means that graphics in games will no longer be held back by year-old console components. And yeah, the possibility of having access to every single game Sony has ever released on every single console they've ever launched without even leaving the comfort of your home, well, it's a freaking great idea. But look, I'm an old school gamer and only recently have I started collecting old games. See, I've got PlayStation 1 games, hell, I've got a PlayStation 1 console under my TV, I've got a Mega Drive, and I've got a whole bunch of old school games in their original box. Well, that brings a sense of nostalgia in me. It brings me back to my youth, and it doesn't matter how good the technology is or how many games are available on my fingertips. Well, this will never beat the enjoyment I get from opening an old box and sticking that CD into the old PlayStation 1. What do you guys think? Are you like me? Do you like collecting games? Do you like the feeling it brings you every time you set your eyes upon one of those old boxes? Let me know in the comment section. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. To finish on a nice quote, consoles aren't going anywhere for now. Bye.